Hello, quick question for you. Does your husband still work with the affair partner? This is an extremely painful, delicate, and difficult situation to have in your lives. It'd be so nice if we could just cut her out, but that's not always the case. So I want to talk to you today about how to navigate this situation if your husband still works with his affair partner. You may be asking him, go find another job, and that's met with resistance, saying, I am looking for a job. I'll never find anything that's paying just as high, or I don't want to find another job. Nothing's happening anymore. So what do you do when you meet this resistance? How do you heal? How do you trust when your husband's still working with the affair partner? I'm looking at a couple different spots today, so you'll see me looking around, but I'm Beth Miller. I am the marriage coach, the founder of the Marriage Saver program, and I work with wives for 12 weeks every single day to deal with these thoughts and get them out of our head so that you can heal and move forward after infidelity. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to join the Facebook group that I have, Wives That Want to Save Their Marriages After Infidelity. And if you are in the Facebook group, feel free to go subscribe to YouTube so that you never miss a training. Okay, so the shock and pain and endless questions that come with your husband still working with your affair partner, the affair partner, is so painful. It's heart-wrenching. It's beyond any other pain in this world. It's just a mental mess, right? It's chaos. It's a lot of people even say it falls into emotional, psychological abuse too, depending on how much truth is coming forward. So I want you to use this training to figure out how to navigate this situation, how to move forward after his workplace infidelity. So according to Forbes, 44% of coworkers say they know someone in the workplace who have had affairs. And that can be, I actually even know a situation where someone's had an affair and they ended up getting married. They left their partners, but that's not the norm at all. The norm is typically it turns into chaos. And quite often it's men that have higher status jobs that are then affair downing to women who are either below them in terms of the hierarchy in the workplace. Also what we call affair down, so women that social economic status is less, even their appearance is less, the quality of their personality we could even judge and say is less as well. So the heart-wrenching feeling that comes from your husband connecting emotionally and physically with another person is horrible. And then add in the complication of them going to see each other every day, right? This is like the ultimate having to heal yourself, because it's not like you can just say goodbye to her, she's out of our lives, we blocked her and everything. No, they might have to attend meetings together and wondering if they're seeing each other in meetings. Are they thinking about each other? Does he look at her and remember the times that they've been intimate together? Is he thinking that he still likes her? Is he saying, I just want to be with my family, I want to put this behind me, but then still has feelings for her? So complicated, right? So let's get buckled up and let's get started. So the first thing here is brutal honesty. Brutal honesty that comes with love. I love the word loving boundaries. So if he's telling small lies, and these lies, it's so interesting. Like, I hope you all know this is, for the most part, his affair is not about you. We can take it so personally. It can destroy our self-confidence. It can make you feel like you're not enough, that you'll never be enough, that what have you done wrong? Is it something about you? But so often it's them, and I just wish I could hammer that one home. He did this because he's seeking out a feeling. He's chasing something, and he may be telling himself a lie. Anyway, if you have questions, by the way, pop them in here. He is probably been telling himself a lie. He's telling himself stories. We talk in stories. We tell ourselves stories. Like, our thoughts are actually stories. That's why sometimes our thought train can be so much, because we're telling ourselves stories, trying to work through things as if we're talking to a friend, but in our mind. So he's been telling himself a story. He's been trying to tell himself why this is okay, that he's been doing this with a coworker. And so when he goes to try and tell you the truth, he may not know his own truth because he's convinced himself it's something else. So often wives are like, if you would just tell me the truth, this would be so much easier, but they haven't been able to own their truth. And so these little lies, bending the truth, the trickled truths, it's really painful. And it's them kind of spilling it out as they come to a place of being able to say it. So he may not disclose all the details with his affair partner from work. So encourage your husband for brutal honesty. And the best way we can really do this is the only thing we can really control ourselves is us. And so that's why healing ourselves is so important, so that when he does have these glimpses, these windows of maybe being able to pull something out of him, we're in a place where we can support, hold space, and just listen. And the only way to do that is to process our own emotions first. So to really heal the anger, the sadness, the fear, the horrible feelings that have come from this betrayal. Because when we can release a lot of our undesirable emotions, when we can get rid of the trauma, we can't erase the memories. The memories happened, but the beliefs associated with the memories, like I'm neglected, I'm abandoned, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care for me, he doesn't see me, he doesn't hear me, he doesn't love me, I'm not enough. I've done so much to help him, but he doesn't do anything for me anymore. When we can undo these belief statements and say, I can see that he hasn't loved me, but it doesn't mean I'm not lovable. I can see he doesn't do things that care, but I can see that he does care in these other aspects. When we can reprogram these beliefs, we then have different emotions. Memories create beliefs, create emotions, and when we have better emotions that aren't anger, we can then talk to our husband in a different way. So it's so important that we work on ourselves so that you can then encourage that brutal honesty, hold space, being like, it's okay, you can talk to me. And even if he's like, I have nothing to say, that's okay. That's a temp one. It can take several weeks of you changing your vibration, because we're undoing potentially months or years, depending on when D-Day was, of you being really angry, you shutting down, you trying to push behaviors. As the marriage helper would say, smart contact. S is stop pushing behavior. So if we've been pushing, trying to get these answers for so long, what happens is it can then push him away. And so we need to change our tone, use different communication strategies, such as, hey, something's been on my mind. Do you have a moment to talk? Okay, now's not the right time. Can we talk tonight at 8:00? And then when we do talk to them, saying, I understand. Thanks for sharing that. And when we use little statements like that, we're not trying to fix, we're not trying to push, we're not trying to ask more questions, we're sticking with one question. And doing that for several weeks, it's hard, it's really hard, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But when we can do that for several weeks, then what happens is they can start to feel like you're a safe place. We don't want you to suppress your feelings. We don't want to shove things under the rug, but we want to make sure that you have an outlet where you can put it, whether it's a journal, whether it's a close friend, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach like me that works with you every single day. We can't sweep it under the rug, but we have to change that interaction with him. So making him feel like being safe and honest is okay. That it's not going to create more harm, that it's not going to make you judge him, because so often he's proud. He feels really a lot of pride that he's a good person, and he doesn't want to distort that view, especially if he's a high-powered, like he has a high position in the business he works in. He doesn't want to taint that. Okay, so like I just alluded to, kind of step 2 is, number 1 was create that safe place for him to open up. Step 2 was free yourself of the hurt and pain. So moving forward after your husband's infidelity requires a lot of courage. This isn't easy. I commend every single one of you that are staying. It'd be so much easier if you just like, I'm done with this, I'm out. But I know you all have another try in you. You're like, I don't know if I want my marriage sometimes. Sometimes I'm out, sometimes I'm in. But what I do know is I'm not ready to quit. And when you're not ready to quit, you have to give it everything you've got. And that starts with healing yourself. So it takes a lot of courage to act from a place of freeing yourself of hurt and pain. Because regardless if you move on or not, you don't want to hold this pain. You don't want to hold this resentment, this anger towards your husband. So you need to release the grip that resentment has on your spirit, that it has on you. Because you're almost keeping him hostage in your brain. You're keeping this pain hostage and you're living from it. Your past, that happened in the past is informing your present. And you're acting based on past stuff or the fear of future stuff happening again. So take a deep breath. Tell yourself, I choose my marriage today. Oh, I'm losing a light. I choose my marriage today. I'm going to get that back up there. I can't get it up here. Is that going to stay? There we go. I choose my marriage today. I choose my marriage today. Allow yourself to feel this. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. It's so important that we feel the feelings and then we figure out what to do with them. Someone has a question here. He says it was me because I wasn't engaged enough in the bedroom. All right. Yeah, I feel like your whole marriage is a lie. It's not about you. It really isn't you. He had a choice to communicate this, and never is it okay for someone to step outside the marriage. Depending on your vows, and pretty much every vow I know out there is committing to each other, right? Unless you've mutually decided upon that an open marriage is okay, it's never okay. And I have a lot of wives I work with who can look back and they became emotionally distant, whether it was family trauma, a sick kid, a sick parent, whether it was financial crisis, whether it was their own personal health crisis, whether they felt like their husband was distant and wasn't meeting their physical needs. Often when we have to go inward or we feel like we're not getting what we need, we get distant. And when that happens, sometimes our partners feel that too, but they're not able to articulate it, and then they go separate as well. It's not okay that this is happening. And yeah, I work with clients whose husbands have cheated on them for 7 years, and often it is with coworkers, and it can start out as emotional just because that your husband is going to someone and it feels easy. It feels easy to talk to them because talking to you, they feel like they're not heard, or they feel resentful because you're not meeting their physical needs. It's so interesting how this happens, but they talk to someone because it just seems easy. And that person often wants to please them too, being like, yes, I agree with you. They're only hearing one side of it. So that can be really, really challenging. All right. So how do you do this? Self-care. You have to take ownership of your own feelings and emotions. And I know this sucks. He's doing so much crappy stuff to you, but you have to do it, because if not, who else is going to do it for you? We can't rely on him having the on-off switch to your happiness. And that's what he has right now. And so feeling the feels, seeing that he's disrespecting you or crossing boundaries, but being in a place of, okay, I can see he's crossing my boundaries right now, but I still choose to work on myself. I choose not to leave this marriage. I communicate my boundaries lovingly, even if it's just to say it once or twice. This is what I need. End of it. Not trying to engage in why you're not doing it, because sometimes that's met with resistance. So if you can have that conversation, great. But if not, you just have to state your boundaries. Simply, I need you to tell me about X, Y, Z. Very specific. I need to talk about your interactions with her when you have meetings. What does that look like? Where do you sit? When do you come in? Whatever it might be, something really specific. And if he's like, I don't want to talk about it, then you say, I need to talk about this at some point. Let's try tomorrow. If he's like, I don't ever want to talk about it, well, then we need to revisit that one as well. But it really is simply stating your message, I need this, and then end a discussion. Because when you start to engage, it just fuels more and more and more. And he may want that reaction. Sometimes husbands will push you away. They want you angry because it makes them feel better, justify. Like, you know what? There's a reason why I'm doing this, because she doesn't understand me anyway. So the more you can, I don't want to say kill with kindness, but a little bit. And that's supporting you too. When you are in your power and you're not letting him get the best of you, you're not letting his stuff, his projections onto you, his lack of telling the truth, like absorb into you like you're a sponge. Instead, you have these loving boundaries where like ping, ping, ping. You can feel his anger. You can feel, like, you don't feel, sorry, but you see the anger just like bounce off you. You can see his like closing up, his inability to really be in touch with him just bounce off these imaginary boundaries that are around you, so that you're protecting your bubble on the inside, being like, I am safe, I am okay, I'm worthy of having a partner who will answer my questions, but today I still choose to stay in this marriage. I'm going to stay within myself. I'm going to work on healing myself, and I'm going to continue to show up as the best vibration I possibly can. And again, you're not swallowing your feelings ever. You have to feel your feelings, and we need that outlet. I have a great process that I use called hypno journeying. I have a hypnosis training, so I use a deepening process to relax my clients. And then we go back to times where you feel fear, can't trust, feel guilt, feel shame, feel really stuck in a certain emotion. And that's how we release it. And when you release it, you feel free of it, and you're like, okay, I can have these conversations. So communicating with emotions of kindness, so that you're not further damaging the relationship and giving him reason to be like pushing you away further. So continuously reflecting upon your emotions is really important. Practicing that emotional self-regulation, like, this is all stuff we know, but we really have to put into practice. And you might need someone to keep you accountable, whether it's a friend, therapist, coach. Like, we gotta stay on top of this. And if you keep falling back into old patterns of anger, like you wake up each day like, today's a new day, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be patient, I'm going to be good with my words, but then you fall off the wagon. We got to figure out what's causing it. And if you keep falling off the wagon, it's probably a belief. The belief is, I can't trust you, or you don't respect me. We got to change that belief so it fires a new thought, firing a new action. We need new thoughts. The thoughts are, I can see he's disrespecting me. I can see he's not answering my questions. But the thought can then be, I'm going to give him space, and I'm going to keep working on myself. And then within that, it keeps our emotions regulated. So we have to figure out what belief is driving the thought, driving the emotion. We got to backtrack it. And if you want to figure out the belief, one of the best ways to say this is, when he shuts me down, it makes me feel like I am or I am not. So when he shuts me down, it makes me feel like I am not heard. It makes me feel like I am not good enough. And when we sense that I am not heard, we can go back to times where you haven't felt heard, and we can try to unpack those and realize, you know what? He doesn't hear me, but do I hear myself? Okay, so we're going to reflect on our emotions. We're going to work on our emotional regulation. We're not sweeping anything under the rug. with that, when we're in a calmer place, we can be very mindful of the words we're using, the things that we're saying to him that may be triggering him. And your wounds could be talking to his wounds. We want to make sure that we see his wounds. So when you say things like, you never listen to me, that could make him feel like she doesn't respect me, she doesn't love me, she doesn't care for me, even though you feel like he doesn't hear you, but we're just fueling his belief as well. Empathizing as much as you possibly can. I understand. The word I understand is powerful. It doesn't mean you agree with it. It just means I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. So it's such a powerful word to use. And then establishing these clear boundaries, establishing them, whether he's going to keep crossing them and choosing, you know what, I choose to stay in this marriage right now. Or if he's crossing your boundaries so much, then we have to respect yourself and be like, okay, I'm done. Or it's, you know what, if this keeps happening, I'm going to reevaluate this in 12 days, and in 12 days it's still happening. I need to work on the next plan, which is looking at what separation would be like. Okay, so like I've said, creating that safe place for him, non-judgmental space, putting yourself in your partner's shoes to try and understand them. They have hurt you so bad. Why is it that you have to do all this work? Well, again, you want to be happy. We can't let someone else be in charge of our happiness. Empathizing, not being judgmental or criticizing, really choosing our words. When this happens, I feel this. I hear you and I understand that this is what your thoughts are. So it's what I feel when this happens and summarizing what they're trying to tell you so that they feel heard. Trying to summarize what they say even before you jump in and say how that makes you feel. So that's so hard to do. It could be like, well, you're hurting me more than I'm hurting you. You've been doing this for so long. How can I ever trust you? Instead being like, I can see X, Y, Z. And then slowly get into your part two. So yeah, though, like he still works with her, like back into that though, he still works with her. So how can you deal with this? Like actual strategies when you're at work, message you when he's leaving for work, message you when he gets to work, if he'll do that. Screenshots are always great too, being like, okay, with a timestamp, hey, I just arrived at work. I'm in my office. If you feel like you have your location settings on, that's great. If he has any meetings with her, letting you know ahead of time, like if he's going to see her. If they happen to be on the same Zoom meetings or if they're in an in-person meeting, what kind of interaction do they have to have? And the big part is setting boundaries. Like what kind of interactions have you had to have with her today? Is there any way to not have those interactions with her? I'm trying to think what else that we could do. Depends on the role that they have with you. Like if you're equals and you have to like talk throughout the day, having the stance of you can't talk about anything personal. It's work only. And what will you say? Like some coaching around what will you say if she tries to say like, how was your weekend? You'd say, my weekend is good, but I can't, like in setting that boundary with her, but I can't go into deeper things with you. I can only talk about work. So if he can get to a place where he's like, this is the boundary, I only talk about work, I can't talk about personal things. That can be helpful too. Is he looking for another job? Oh, I hear this a lot. Like, I'm looking for another job and it's months. It's not easy. In today's economy, it's not always easy to find another job. But does he want another job, or is he just kind of dragging his feet saying, yeah, I want another job? Can he change positions within it? Again, those are the tough ones. So often, like, they have to work with them. That's what I hear so often. They're not willing to leave. So really discussing what is acceptable, what is not acceptable when they're in the office, so that we don't leave that door wide open to emotional connection. Removing any temptation that could possibly spark it again. I know people say once a cheater, always a cheater, but I think we really got to analyze that on a case-per-case basis. Looking at your husband, is he doing his own work? Is he going to individual therapy? Are you guys going to couples counseling? Is he sending you the screenshots? Does he seem to have a really, really deep sense of remorse? Is he meeting the mold of statistics? Once a cheater, always a cheater? Or can you see in him the reasons why he did this? Can you see that his own seeking out validation, his need to boost his ego, his low self-confidence, he needed it to be inflated? Communicating boundaries together, creating that solid foundation so that you understand what's happening at work. And if they have, I think it's so important if he sees her at work, you have to know how to do that. Okay, I think for the most part, that's where we're at. I'm just gonna see if I have anything else I wanted to add here. Let's see. Yeah, another big fear really too is if other people find out, especially if your husband is yeah, if your partner answers to your husband at work, like if she's below him, this fear that what if others find out? Could he lose his job? Could he lose his pensions, his health care? Could his reputation be tarnished in the industry? And that's a tricky one, right? Because I could send you in a place of fear, being like, what about our future? What about his reputation in the community? What if others find out? So how do you manage that? Well, I would go through a process called the fear, false evidence appearing real. Today, at this time, are we safe? Yes, today we are okay. Sure, go ahead and start planning for the future. Okay, worst case scenario, it all happens. Everyone finds out, he loses his job. I think spending a tiny bit of time just being, okay, what will we do for income? What will we do for our living expenses? What will we do for a new job? What will we do? What will we do? Going through that, having that plan B, maybe a plan C, plan D, modify it a little bit, but then we have that off to the side. You know what? Today we are safe. Today you have your job. Today you're working on yourself. Today, she says she's not telling anyone. And so really working on having a plan, but then going back to today and focusing on today. Because that could bring in some legal, financial stuff as well. So whether you need to get a consultation with a lawyer just to double check. And what else do I want to say here? I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Seeking support is a big one. You can't do this alone. You really can't. You've been trying. So really finding the resources, but figuring out how to implement them. If you're like any of my clients, you guys are like detectives in research. Like you're so good at being a detective, so good at doing research. We just got to make sure that we have a plan to put these in action so you can feel better. Bottom line is you need to feel better so that you get the clarity. So anyway, I'm Beth Miller, the founder of Solidified Wellness and a marriage saver coach. And feel free to send us a DM. Feel free to reach out. We have tons of resources. If you need some help with intrusive thoughts or fear that it's going to happen again, send us a DM. We have tons of resources. We'll send them your way. So until we chat again, thanks everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.